Thank you for tuning in. So just want to say thank you. To God be the glory. I just felt like God was telling me to tell my story. So if you do donate, thank you. If you do share, thank you. Even if you said prayer, thank you as well too. But back in 2014, ended up moving to State College, but I had rented a vehicle and to come down here and look at the area, survey the area because my brother had lived here. So we went down and I really liked the vehicle. So I was like, you know what? I feel like God's telling me like I'm gonna get one of these vehicles. So I ended up, going to a dealership. I prayed about it and went to a dealership and they were like everything was cool. It was a vehicle that was actually coming from another dealership that went out of business. So it was only one owner. So that's why I ended up getting it. So I purchased this vehicle in 2014, and they tell me that it has all brand new parts, right? So I end up doing that. So I get this vehicle, and it's almost like it was a heating element or something like that. But every time I drove, pretty much in the summertime, it was like there was heat coming on my leg as if like I had the heat on. I couldn't explain this, but it was just like that. So I end up, saying like calling corporate and well, nah, y'all didn't call corporate yet, but actually, called them like, hey, and he was like, oh, it's just normal, turn the air conditioner. I'm like, nah, I don't roll around the air conditioner like that because, my sinuses to kick up. So anyway, my rotors go bad. I bought it in May 2014, so my rotors go bad in July. So they were like, well, your thing has $100 deductible. So I'm like, I'm not paying a deductible, and I just bought this vehicle, and y'all told me all the parts was brand new. So they end up, giving me $100 deductible, taking care of that. And then they said they couldn't figure it out. So I do that again, and they go bad in September. So then they were like, man, the brake pads is messed up again too. And I said, listen, when you have brake pads, I said, why is it one side gone? So I ended up going to like AutoZone. AutoZone said it was probably the caliper, but they said it was no caliper. So as you can see in the picture, it shows where I had to get this fixed. So they tried to give me $100 deductible again. I'm like, I'm not paying this. So then they were like, you know what? You can trade in the vehicle. I said, why would I trade in the vehicle if I just bought it? Like, nah, y'all not getting me like that. So I ended up getting a Carfax on this vehicle, and I seen how the other dealership was actually writing down, typing everything out like extensively, whereas this dealership was just like maintenance. Like, no, this is not maintenance. So mind you, I had to stay the night. I had to stay over there for them to fix my vehicle. I was there like all day. So like I went there like early in the morning, and then I end up like 4 hours later, like, hey, are y'all they was like, oh, we're gonna have to need you to stay, had to stay the night or whatever. I'm like, so anyway, they gave me like a $20 gift card to get some steak, eat or whatever like that, but I've never used the card. So I ended up having to stay the night on the second time. So they didn't, I was there all day. Then they finally gave me a hotel room. They paid for that, put me in a cheap motel. And thank God there wasn't no bugs. But they gave me like a $20 gift card to eat at like this steak place, but I don't really eat their steakhouse. I still ain't used the card, but I think it's still $20 on there. So then I still had, so after the winter came, it kind of masked because I did have the heat on. So it came back the next following year, and it's still having issues. So now I take it to the local dealership, and which is their another dealership. So I'm like, thinking that they're gonna find it. They can't find it. They call corporate, everything like that. They couldn't find anything like that. So my mom is getting her hair done, and I end up taking care of that. And her hairdresser says my husband, is a he just sells cars. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe I can go down there and trust him. So I go down there, saying to get this straightened out. So they like, oh yeah, you could trade in the vehicle. So they went to go look at it. So they still couldn't find nothing. So everything is cool, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Because at this point, I end up talking to corporate because this whole thing like that. So I go trade the vehicle in. They're like, everything is good. And so I go pick out a vehicle. They like, yeah, you good. So come back tomorrow. So I come back tomorrow. They like, man, you it's like the numbers messed up, man. We gonna need like 2,500 down. So I'm like, okay. So I end up calling my dude back from Chrysler, end up talking to him, and I was like I'm gonna need $2,000, 2,500. So he like, okay, cool. So I go back. I'm like, hey, everything is cool. Like, yep, come back tomorrow. We guys have the vehicle ready. We're gonna clean up, make it nice and shiny, everything. So I'm like, cool. So I come back tomorrow. So then he like, man, something messed up, man. The numbers is something like this, they didn't have it right. I'm like, really? Are you serious? So I end up, leaving. I'm like, man, I'm like telling Chrysler, and I told the dude down at the dealership, I said, look, man, Chrysler gonna pay for it, so it's cool. Let me call them. So I called them. He like, oh man, you got that? He's like, I never seen nobody ever get money from Chrysler. So I ended up doing that. So I called the dude back from Chrysler and like, I'm like, they want 4,500 down. He like, how much you got? So I'm like, $5. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I got $5. You know, 500. So I'm like, I got $500. So I go back, everything cool. They like, come back tomorrow. Everything gonna be ready, nice and shiny. I had to pick a new vehicle. So I'm like, cool. So I come back. So then he like, man, you gonna need $6,000. I'm like, yo, I'm not, listen, you can't do that, man. This dude gonna think I'm lying. I said, I would think I'm lying, man. I'm gonna think he gouging him out for money. Like, so he like, man, that's your problem. I'm like, wow, like you can't call dude for me? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I called him back. This man does not return none of my calls. I called him at least like 9 times in like 2 weeks. I waited a day or two and then went back and emailed him and everything like that. So at this point, I'm just fed up. I'm like, man, I quit. I'm done. Like, I just go home. So I'm sleeping at this point, and then God wakes me up, like, go back. This is like a year later. I'm like, man, I don't want to go back, right? But before I go back, I had to go get an oil change. So I ended up scheduling this oil change at Monroe, and this is what happened. So I'm about to read it. So I had $240 until my next payday, and to share my story. The money was for something important, but I needed an oil change that cost $30, and my bank account was negative $60. When I came into the store, God said he wanted me to bless someone. Mind you, I was having issues with the vehicle that I'm having now. Then one college student stuck out to me. So God said pay for his tire. So I'm thinking in my head like $60, right? Well, the tire was $170. And well, I added it up in my head. I'm like $170 for the tire, $30 for the oil change. I'm negative $60 in the bank. I only had $240. Well, that's $260. But I did it anyway because I knew God was going to make a way. Long story short, the guy and the mechanic at the counter asked, why did I do it? I said that when God tells me to do something, I do it because I know he's going to bless me for my obedience. Well, it shocked him, and he said he wanted to pay for my oil change. Now, watch this. With that, I'm about to go back into the green for $170 because for the tire, $60 for my bank account. And then on top of that, I put $70 in the bank, and I should have had $10 to my good, but I ended up having $15, and God was setting me up for something later. So that was a clue. Needless to say, because I obeyed God in trying time next month, I was blessed with the new vehicle. Here's a story from the guy. So I just had a customer that needed a tire, $107.53 installed out the door. At the same time, I had another customer for an oil change. The two have never met each other before. When I told the tire customer the price and got the approval for the job, the oil change customer said he was going to run to the store real quick. I said, no problem, you almost done. He said, cool, be right back. I was ringing out the tire for the customer, and the oil change customer stepped in and said, I would like to pay for your tire. Jesus just spoke to me and said, I'm going to bless you, but you must help this person out right now. So he did. He got cash out the ATM and paid for the tire. I'm a Christian, and I believe in the power of God and paying it forward. I can say I have never had Jesus speak to me in the way, but I do believe that he speaks in different ways. Just thought I need to share this. The world needs more kindness. God bless. But see, because I obeyed God, that man ended up paying for the oil change. You know what I'm saying? The guy at the counter. So I'm at the crib, right? And so I was going to go look at a vehicle out of town. And so I set my alarm clock for 9 o'clock. So God wakes me up at 6:34. So I know 6:33 by heart. Matthew 6:33, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all his righteousness and everything else shall be added unto you, right? So God said, go figure it out. So I'm like, what is 34? So I look it up, and it says, do not worry. So I'm like, okay. So God said, do not worry. So at this point, I end up coming back this way, and I went to go get a vehicle. I said, listen, can somebody sell me a car? So I ended up getting with this lady. And at the time, my mom was with me, and she says, I would treat him like he was my own son. So mind you, I tell this lady, listen, I don't want to go into anything extra. Don't give me nothing extra. And they was like, oh, we have this, I don't want all of that. Only thing I extended was a warranty. Now, I didn't understand a lopsided loan, which I was still paying on the vehicle that should have been recalled. So I go from a payment of $284 to $701. Yeah, for a minivan. Now, mind you, I'm like, I go pick out this vehicle. So it was like December 28th, so 27th. So I didn't want to go into like a 2017. I wanted to end up going into that. And so I believe God was saying, because I was thinking like, okay, when I get a lot of money, I'm gonna just go buy me another vehicle, like, but something brand new that nobody ever had before. And this vehicle ended up having only 211 miles on it. So it was driven from Philadelphia. Then that's when I ended up getting it. But there were 4 things on this loan that I didn't sign for. And there's documents that had the signatures, as you can see, that they are not signed. My signature is nowhere near on there. It is only on the dealership where they had that. And so I went down and approached them and asked them several times, and never really gave me a runaround, never really said this and that. And I'm like, but this is not on there. I never asked for that. And then one time I was like, oh, yes, you did. You asked for that because, key fob, in case you lose your keys. And I was like, first of all, I wouldn't need to lose my keys, if anything, because there was 2 keys. So there was no point in me having the key fob thing, because I had 2 keys. So I gave one to my mom's and I had one. So my mom, I would have the kids, I go to work and I would get off at 4 o'clock. So my kids got out of school around like 3 o'clock. So like 3:15. So at that time, my mom would have the van while I was at work. So there was no point in me needing the key fob. Worst case scenario, I had to take a Uber to her house and get the other key or anything like that. But it also was a fail safe on the door if you don't have it, where the lock is on there where you can open the door on the side. So anyways, I get the 2016. I like it. The black on black, as you can see, with the interior. So I'm like, good. So I ain't looking back. And also too, before I had, when I had the other vehicle, I was driving behind a truck and there was a rock that kicked up and it actually hit a crack in the windshield. And I asked God, I said, God, what does that mean? And he said, that means don't look back. So it wasn't like one of those hard, like real, just like a little chip or anything like that. So God said, don't look back. So according to these documents that I ended up seeing, probably within like 7-8 months ago, that there was at least up to 4,000, like 4,200 of things that I didn't even sign. But it gets better. So being a single father of 5, and at this point, my 3 boys live with me and my 2 girls had lived with their mom. So I had told them, I said, look, I want to be able to see my girls as much as I can. I need something to be reliable. I will be driving back and forth. So I live where I lived at in State College, Pennsylvania. So now the trip from State College to Cleveland, Ohio was about like 4 hours. So I was trying to spend as much time as I can as a father to be able to see my daughters and everything like that before they actually came to live with me. So now I get up to about 77,893, as you can see, miles, and the engine goes out. So pretty much, and I had to get a whole new engine. So they did that. So I ended up getting that taken care of. But then it was making this crinkly noise like there was a screw missing or something like that. So now, mind you, I had the extended warranty. So you're going to have to hear some raw audio of them telling me I got to get all of these maintenance requests, like oil changes, to make sure that I'm not just buying this vehicle and just running it to the ground. And I was like, if I was going to buy a vehicle running to the ground, why would I extend the warranty? But anyway.
To give you a quick call here. So they're going to need you to round up all your maintenance records, like oil changes and stuff like that, for this vehicle. I don't have any history of any of that, so I can't just get it to them. So there's an email address that I have that they want you to send it to. So give me a shout here, or I'll see you when you stop in and get it. I just want to give you a heads up so that way you can round that stuff up there for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So I finally get that taken care of, and he says it's a brand new engine. So I tell my neighbor's like, it says remanufactured, as you can see. And I'm like, so I come back, I'm like, yo, is this a brand new engine? It's brand new. I said, I'm gonna ask you again, man, don't lie to me. Is this a brand new engine? He's like, it's brand new. I said, is everything on this engine brand new? He said, no. I said, then it's not brand new. He was like, but it has some used parts. I said, okay then. I said, why can't you just say that this is a new engine that has new parts on it? Simple. You don't got to go with all this and act like it's brand new and everything like that. Because he said it was brand new, and I'm like, I hear this crinkling noise or whatever like that. So I end up coming back, and so the head tech was like, well, I did it myself. I done spent this amount of hours or whatever like that, 3 days on it. I know it's working. I said, well, come on, you can come ride with me then. So he comes and he rides with me, right? So we're on the highway, and I'm telling him, it wasn't that far. I said, you're going to ride me until you hear it. He's like, what? I said, yes, you're going to ride me until you hear it. So we start to hear the noise, right? So he says, oh yeah, I hear you talking about that noise. I said, yeah. So we get back to the dealership, right? So I'm like, everything cool. This man straight up lies and says, I didn't hear anything. I said, you just told me in the van that you heard something. See, the Bible says, "Hold your peace, God will fight for you." Exodus 14:14. But anyway, I get the general manager happened to be there. I said, "Listen, could you come with me?" I said, "I'm not trying to be on the highway and this engine sound like this." So he like, "Well, what's the problem?" So I tell him we get in the van. He ride with me. We hear the crinkling noise. I said, "Do you hear that?" He said, "Yeah." So at this point, they tried to say it was because I needed a new tire, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I had to go get another tire, get a tire from Firestone, go get that taken care of, come back, it was still making noise. I'm like, it's not the tire, but whatever. So we get that taken care of, I get my engine fixed, I'm good. Well, fast forward to the day, so I'm probably at like 166,000 miles or something like that. So I end up doing that, and guess what? The engine's doing the same thing again. So I called them. They like, it's gonna be 2 weeks before we can look at your vehicle. So I end up calling the other place down in Altoona, and they were like, we're busy too. So I'm like, well, okay, cool. So I'm gonna just wait 2 weeks or whatever. So I end up talking to corporate, trying to do that. And so under the warranty, they're supposed to take care of rental. So anyway, I have to end up taking the kids to Michigan, so to see their mom and their stepdad. So I ended up doing that. So what I did was I watched their daughter and their son, who's also mine, but not biologically, so they can have some alone time. And it was her birthday and Mother's Day and everything like that. So I get a call on the way up there that the van might be fixed. I'm like, might be fixed? He like, yeah. So I get back, it's not fixed. He tell me, come back tomorrow, we'll take care of it. I'm like, cool. So I bring it back and everything like that. So then the next day, the head tech calls me, the guy that's in charge of service. So he's the highest guy. So he calls me like, you need to come get your vehicle and take it somewhere else. I said, are you refusing? He said, I can't say that I'm refusing you, but it's probably going to be another 2 weeks before we can look at it and pretty much diagnosis. I'm like, okay. He's like, we already spent 15 hours doing this. And I'm like, well, it's doing pretty much what it did last time, whatever like that. And he was like, well, it's just going to be a long time. It could even be longer than that. So he's like, you'll probably be upset or be mad. So I'm like, okay. So I end up calling Altoona. And mind you, I'm still in the rental. So I call Altoona, and Altoona says that they can take care of it on the 8th. So they end up doing that. Mind you, I've been in the rental over a month and a half. So I didn't already spent 3,500. So as you can see, pretty much on the bills that I'm going to show, it shows all of the money that I spent for this rental, that I'm still in this one. So I end up going down there, taking care of that. And they say it's probably going to get fixed on Friday, which would be my birthday, June 11th. So, but it's interesting because remember I was telling you about the crack in the screen? So this Chrysler that I ended up getting, first I had a car, then I had to go pick up my son and everything like that. So we had that for like a week. Then I switched into the van because we had some family deaths in the family. We had at least about 9 in the last couple months. But, just been a lot. So anyway, so I ended up getting I called the Enterprise and I said, hey, do you guys have anything? And they didn't have anything. So I called the one closest to the airport. It's a small airport. And he like, yeah, we got a van, we got a Chrysler. So I ended up getting a Chrysler. Tell me why it has a crack in the screen. And pretty much exactly where the crack in the screen was in the first vehicle. So I feel like that. And so I ended up blessing somebody. As you can see, somebody had trouble in a community where I live at. It's like townhouses. He was having issues with his battery, and they supposed to be fixed. They supposed to fix it, gave him a new one. He's still having issues. So I ended up giving him, God said give him, I had bought a jump start battery. I had bought that. Pretty much you could charge it up. And last time I blessed somebody, God blessed me. So I wanted to be obedient and give it to him, as you can see in the picture. So I did that. So that's why I wanted to be obedient. But also, so I ended up going down to this other dealership in Altoona, and they was just like, it seemed like they just didn't want to fix it. I'm like, yeah, but I have a warranty like through the dealership, like. But anyway, I'm not going to do any speculations or anything like that. But like I said, I'm just thankful that they're looking at it. He said it should be fixed on my birthday. But not only that, I ended up getting into an accident. This is probably last year. So I'm going, so their mother came to get them, and I had a back tail light, so I really didn't want to drive and meet them like I was going to. But I had ordered a part, and so she ended up coming down. And so she gets she gets all the way down here, and then halfway, my son, as you're gonna see the pictures rolling past. So my son ends up saying that he didn't want to go, he wanted to stay. So they're about 4 hours away. So I end up going 4 hours away. So on my way back, this deer like wipes me out, like bam, hits, like take it out. So I'm like, and I'm doing 75 miles an hour. So the speed limit was 70. So mind you, my two sons in the back, they actually don't wake up or anything like that. Like, and you can see the pictures, so they don't wake up or anything. And so I'm like, I knew it was God, because God was protecting me, because it didn't even sound like it didn't even feel like it was like a hard hit. Like, and this deer tore the front, as you can see the pictures, like it definitely tore all of that. But now, mind you, the dealership that didn't want to take care of my vehicle, even though I bought it from them, they have multiple dealerships. They have over 10, literally, almost double that. But I say all that to say this. So I did get a call from the finance, which is Wells Fargo. They said, because I owe $27,000 still on the loan, but they were willing to do a settlement for like 16 grand, because they said, we know the vehicle is not worth or whatever like that. They know all the issues and everything like that. So reason why I did this GoFundMe, because I just wanted to just get past that, pay all that off, get a new one that has the all-wheel drive for the snow, and pay that van off, and not owe them. So I just wanted to do that, and because it was good, like, to have my son driving the other van, for what we could, so as well too. So his birthday is coming up on the 14th. So but I just wanted to pay that off. So that's where I'm at with my story. I did try to talk to a lawyer. They did say it was statute of limitations. Since it's been over 4 years. But I did try to talk within 4 years. I tried to talk to the dealership. They wasn't really trying to hear that and making excuses for this and for that. So that's why I came on here and I just felt like God was saying that. So again, if you do donate, I appreciate it, even if it's $1. It helps me. So I just wanted to take care of that, and get this taken care of and not have to worry about this. So I'm just thankful if you do that. Even if you don't, and you just share it, I'm thankful. Even if you just say a prayer, just say a prayer. So know there's always good people in the world. So I definitely want to do that. When God blesses me, I will be giving back to people, as I still give away. Now you could check my Facebook page. You could check Team Ministry. I give away free books. So by you supporting this, it's definitely going to go back. And I always was helping people. So just wanted to see if you can help me with that. So to everybody, thank you and God bless.